Happy Tuesday, friends. This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Hope everyone had a great Monday. Here at Syracuse Central, we cover Syracuse basketball, that is, Syracuse basketball, Syracuse football, and recruiting in both sports. As always, please drop me comments about what you want to hear about and what you don't want to hear about, frankly. I welcome all constructive feedback. And if you're so inclined, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to build up our community here and chat about Syracuse basketball and football. And we're going to talk some hoops today. So Syracuse basketball has their annual ACC slash SEC challenge game on Tuesday night at the Dome against number 13 Tennessee. It's at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN2. And interestingly enough, Syracuse has played Tennessee in this same event last year. And then the year before that, Syracuse played Tennessee in Maui. And I personally love it because, as some of you know, I split my time between the DMV and the Nashville area where my son is, and he loves Tennessee. And he likes Syracuse. He loves Tennessee, though. Loves Duke. Loves North Carolina. Likes Syracuse. So he'll be rooting against my alma mater, and that's cool. Hopefully he'll get to watch the game some. He's with his mom. But I'll be with him this weekend, and hopefully Syracuse wins so I can talk some major smack to my son. But putting that aside, Syracuse, last time I checked, was about a 6.5-point underdog at home to Tennessee, which isn't surprising. Syracuse comes into the game 4-3 overall. Tennessee is 7-1. They both just played at the Players Era Festival in Vegas. As we've talked about on Syracuse Central, the Orange went 0-3. They took Houston down to overtime and lost by 11 points to Kansas, and then got shellacked. Shellacked? Is that the right word? They got crushed. We'll use crushed by Iowa State in the second half of their game, and lost big, unfortunately. So we'll see what Syracuse team shows up. I feel like Cuse had promise in that Houston game. They actually could have won it at the end of regulation. They ended up falling by 4 points in overtime. But they were without Donnie Freeman, and that's what we're supposed to be talking about in this first segment. But I obviously moved ahead a little bit and got into the Volunteers. But yeah, so the news here is that Donnie Freeman is out against Tennessee on Tuesday night at the Dome. He's had this lower body injury. He missed all 3 games in Vegas. Before that, he was leading the Orange in scoring at nearly 18 points a game, 17.8 points per game over the first 4 games when Syracuse beat Binghamton, Delaware State, Drexel, and Monmouth. So, look, head coach Adrian Autry has said that he doesn't believe that this is like a season-ending injury for Freeman, and I got to tell you, I hope that's the case, because look, Syracuse showed that they could fight against Houston, which was in that game when they played last Monday night. Houston was ranked number 3. They dropped a bit because they did lose a game out at the Players Era Festival to Tennessee. But Syracuse showed that they could play. But I think long term, and I'm not saying anything that isn't like Captain Obvious. They need Donnie Freeman. Is either their best player, second best player. I think he's their best player. They need him long term. Sadiq White obviously is getting the starting nod, or has been at least. Tyler Betsy is shown that he can score, although he hasn't been shooting great the last 2 games. The whole team hasn't been. But they need Freeman back long term if they really realistically, in my opinion, want to have a shot at March Madness after a 4-year absence from the NCAA tournament. So we'll see. It just would really suck if, and look, injuries are part of sports, all sports, but certainly in some of these more aggressive sports like football, like basketball, but all teams have to deal with it. So I don't want to sit here and make excuses, but it would suck if for some reason he was out, for much of the season. He only played in 14 games last year, missed the other 19. Because they went 14-19. 33 games overall. So, it would suck if he missed a lot of this season too. But we'll just have to see. It's next man up mentality, and obviously sending positive vibes to Donnie, and we need him back. We need him back because I just don't see Syracuse. Well, again, another captain obvious statement. Syracuse cannot reach its full potential, whatever that may be, without Donnie Freeman. He was leading the team in scoring. He's a good rebounder. Yeah, they need him back. So we'll see. He's out against Tennessee. All right, so speaking of Tennessee, just a couple little notes here. I mentioned that the Volunteers are favored on the road. Tennessee out in Vegas, they beat Houston, the same team that Syracuse lost to by 4 points in overtime. Tennessee beat Rutgers, but then they lost to Kansas by 5. Syracuse lost to Kansas by 11. JP Australia, he is a big man, power forward / center. He's one of the better players on Tennessee, and he was a former Syracuse recruit. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves correct. He took an official visit to Syracuse. Ultimately chose the Vols. I know he's dealt with some injury stuff, but wishing him well and glad to see him playing well. And they've got a nice roster. They've made the last two in the last two NCAA tournaments. Tennessee has made the Elite Eight both times. I believe they lost to Purdue in 24, and then this past spring in 25 they lost to Houston. Yeah. Yeah, they score like 85, 86 points a game. They've got a big advantage on the boards, like 6-7 rebounds. Obviously, Syracuse's their rebounding has been somewhat of a concern so far in the young part of the season. Syracuse is 4-3 overall. Tennessee 7-1. And Tennessee is a team that I think they shoot around 35% from deep. Syracuse around 29%, and then at the free throw lines, Tennessee shoots like 77%, and Syracuse is shooting 57% from the charity stripe. How the hell do you shoot 57%? And I don't want to harp on this, and I know I talked about it some last week, but how do you shoot 57% as a team? It's one thing if some of the players, and usually it's the big power forwards or centers maybe don't shoot as well from the free throw line. I get all that, but collectively the team shoots 57%. Is that last in Division I? I should have looked that up before. I didn't. Sorry. But look, I mean, can Syracuse win this game? Yeah, sure they can. I mean, Tennessee isn't invincible. Is it going to be harder without Donnie Freeman? Absolutely. Being back at the JMA Wireless Dome, back on the hill, will that help? We'll see. With Syracuse not shooting well percentage-wise certainly from deep and from the free throw line, as I've talked about on Syracuse Central, they need to get some easy buckets out in transition and or fast break points when they get turnovers and convert those into points off turnovers. And Tennessee does turn the ball over. They average about just under 13 turnovers a game. And Syracuse, they're like a little Jekyll and Hyde in the turnover department. I mean, they had one game out in Vegas. Was it the Kansas game? Sorry if I'm misspeaking here. One of the games out in Vegas, they had 2 turnovers, I'm pretty sure. But, and they've had other games where they had 5 or 7, but then they had other games where they had like 13 or 14. So if Syracuse can significantly win the turnover battle and the points off turnover battle and the fast break points and all that, those kind of statistical categories, that'll be helpful. Again, especially if they're not shooting well and they're not getting, great looks on offense in the half court set. And, I was talking to a buddy of mine about this. It'd be nice. I feel like Syracuse is kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes they just seem like they're so stagnant on offense. And they're not the only team, but it's just like, you see like this ISO ball, you do like one pick and roll or, a screen or something at the high put. But get more player movement away from the ball. Backdoor cuts and screens and this and that. Not just guys standing around and one guy dribbling and then they chuck up a shot. And again, I'm not saying they don't ever have offensive rhythm and flow and movement, and I'm also not saying that they're the only team that's this happens to. But it would be nice to see just some more. I mean, that's the other thing. If they're not shooting well from the perimeter, yeah, try and get stuff going to the rim. Try and get stuff in the paint. just don't get fouled because they don't know how to make their free throws. No, I'm just kidding. Stop it, Neil. Stop. All right. So, again, not like saying this is like a doomsday scenario or make or break, or this is the end of the season if they lose against Tennessee, but they need to win this game because after this in the non-conference, they don't play anyone that like is knocking my socks off. And I don't mean disrespect to St. Joe's or who they play, Mercyhurst or Stonehill or whoever else. That like I'm not like crapping on them. They're just they're mid majors. They're not going to move the needle in terms of the net rankings, which we'll talk about next in the final segment of Syracuse Central tonight. They're just not. It's just if Syracuse loses to Tennessee and it's like a close game and they play well and it's like we're feeling better about things after that disastrous second half against Iowa State out in Vegas, then that's fine, fair, whatever. It'd still be better to get a win because if they don't, they certain. So ACC teams play 13 non-conference games this year. They reduced the number of ACC games from 20 to 18, and they upped the number of non-conference from 11 to 13. It had been 11 the last couple of years. And so if they lose this game against Tennessee, let's say they sweep the rest of their games, and I'm pretty sure they're all at the Carrier Dome. JMA Wireless Dome. Bad Neil. They'll be 9-4, which isn't like an awful record, especially like they've had some bad non-conference. Weren't they 6-5 in the non-conference last year or something like close to that? Like 9-4 isn't awful, but like the problem is they won't have any like needle moving wins, so to speak. They laid an egg in Vegas again. Certainly in that first game against Houston, they played well and could have won, could have, should have, right? In Kansas, it wasn't, they were hanging around, in the second half. And then Iowa State, they were, down 1 point at halftime or whatever it was. And then they end up getting outscored 60-30 in the second half. That's embarrassing. But, 3 games in 3 days is not the easiest thing. And they played, ironically, 3 Big 12 schools. And, Kansas isn't ranked, or at least they weren't. I can't remember if they are now after the latest poll. But, Kansas did well out in Vegas, and Iowa State was a top 15 team. And I think they're number 10 now in the AP poll, and Houston's a top 10 team. So there's no shame in losing those games, and there'd be no shame in losing the top 15 Tennessee, which is, I believe, Tennessee's number 13 in the latest AP poll. But, again, you got to, like, win some of these games you're not supposed to win for your net ranking and just for confidence sake. It's like, I don't want to go the whole season. Yeah, so fine. So they, let's assume they're going to be better than 14-19 this season. But if they beat all the teams they're supposed to beat and never beat anyone that they are not supposed to beat, that's like frustrating. You want to see them win some of these games against ranked teams, against good teams. Show they belong. So, look, I'm not calling the game against Tennessee on Tuesday night in Central New York like a must-win, so to speak, because I don't like making blanket statements like that. They could still do well in ACC play, even if they don't get a high-quality non-conference win from a metric standpoint. But it would just be so much. I would just feel so much better about things because then, let's say they do beat Tennessee, and then they could be looking at likely or hopefully 10-3 in the non-conference, which isn't awful. It's not amazing, but it's not awful. 10-3, and your 3 losses are to presumably 3 ranked teams come March Madness, all at a neutral site. And then you've got to win at home over a team that's a top 15 team right now, and it would be a quadrant one win, at least as of right now. And it just would make, I think it would make the team feel better. I think it would make the program or the fan base feel better, in terms of confidence in this team, confidence in this coaching staff. So we'll see. We shall see. Anyway, most importantly, drop me comments. What do you think the score, the prediction? What do you predict this? Oh my God, I can't talk today. What do you think the score will be? Syracuse, Tennessee, Tuesday night at the Dome. Okay. So the first NCAA net rankings came out, and let's not get like too worried about it because it's the first ones. It's the first set, and they update, I think, daily, if I'm not mistaken. And Syracuse came out at number 90. Like, I didn't have like any huge expectations about where they would come out. I mean, I'm just looking up here right now while we're talking, or while I'm talking and rambling. Um, they were 90 in the first net, and over at Kempom, the latest ones. And again, those fluctuate too, but they were 71. So I thought maybe Syracuse might be a little higher in the net. I mean, they've got 4 quad 4 wins and 3 quad 1 losses. And the 3 teams they lost to, let me make sure I get this right here. So Iowa State's 7 in the net. Houston's 18, Kansas 17. So again, 2 losses to top 20 teams in the net, 1 loss to a top 10 team. And again, one of those losses was by 4 points in overtime, one was by 11, and then the Iowa State one was bad. So, and just looking through here in terms of like ACC teams that Syracuse will play. So, we map out after, by the way, Tennessee is number 12. So that's a quad 1 win because it's 1 through, I think it's up to 30 at home is a quad 1 win. And then 50 at neutral site, 75 on the road. I think I got that right. You'd think after covering this stuff for multiple years now, even at my old age, I would remember this stuff. So, looking at the ACC, because after Tennessee, you're not really moving the needle with these other non-conference. Oh, I guess, where's St. Joe's? St. Joe's is 267. Yeah, that's not doing anything. Duke's 2, Louisville's 9. Syracuse plays both of them on the road. North Carolina is 26. Syracuse has them home and home. Syracuse plays UVA. They're 31. Clemson 34. Miami 38. SMU 39. NC State 40. Cal 52. Wake Forest 56. Florida State 82. Virginia Tech 84. Notre Dame 86. Syracuse 90. And obviously this is all going to change. But again, I think the takeaway here is, first of all, who gives a crap where Syracuse is right now? Because it's not where they are right now. It's where they hopefully will be in coming weeks and months. But yeah, you obviously want to see them open higher than 90, although last year they were a lot further down because their non-conference was atrocious. But look, it's going to be, they only play Duke and Louisville each on the road. Those are going to be hard ones. Maybe they could pick off North Carolina in one of those games. Some of those other teams are certainly, I think, winnable games, but not guaranteed. So it would be, again, not to belabor the point, but it would be nice if Syracuse on Tuesday night could knock off Tennessee, could knock off the Volunteers, get a top 15 net win, a quad 1 win in the non-conference, close out the non-conference, again, assumably at 10-3 with all their losses to highly ranked teams in the net at a neutral site out in Vegas. And then just see how the ACC goes. It's kind of like I don't care who starts for Syracuse. It's who plays in crunch time and who plays the most minutes. I don't really care that much about where their first net rankings are. We're talking about it because they came out and it's something to talk about. But, it's the point is that I think the ACC is going to be better this year as a conference than it was last year. But Syracuse has got to win some of these games. I mean, there's just no, you can't just beat up on bottom feeders and, finish 18-13. That's not going to do anything. And, yeah, so I guess they could go win the ACC tournament. Do they ever do that? They've never won more than 1 game in an ACC tournament. It's been so disappointing. It's what it is. Let's just focus on Tennessee, getting that win at home, getting Donnie back healthy, getting their free throw shooting and 3-point shooting better, getting back to, what got them started this season, which was really good defense and getting points out in transition, off turnovers especially, and rebound. And beat Tennessee. Mainly because I want to talk smack to my kid. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. I am Neil Adler, your host. Please drop me comments about what you like and you don't like. Hit that subscribe button if you are so inclined. Tell your friends. And we will talk again on Wednesday. It will be hump day. Enjoy the game tonight. Again, Syracuse men's basketball, Tennessee, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the Dome, ESPN2, ACC SEC Challenge. Let's go, Cuse. All right, take care, friends.